What's up, my fantasy-loving friends out there? Chore to the Max Extreme here.
And Ghost Hunter Dave.
Together, we couple as Imperius Rex.
Oh, cuddle?
I couple.
Okay.
Coupling.
Much better. So, Troy.
Yes.
I made a commitment to you.
A vow.
A vow that I was going to finish Fables.
Yes.
And by God, it took me a year, but I did it. I finished Fables.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And we are covering Fables on this very episode, luckily enough.
Thank God. My God, the fates are in our corner on this.
I know. You may remember from our 100th episode, we covered issues 1 through 50.
51.
51
Yes.
of Fables. Today, we're throwing that weak shit out the window. Today, we're doing issues 52 through 150, and maybe touching on a little bit more, all in one ep.
Oh.
Can you believe it?
MG. I can't.
I can't either. That's a lot of stuff to fit in, but we're going to do it, by God.
And we're going to do it fast, because it wasn't very good.
Intro!
So, Troy.
Yes, Dave.
Back in our college days.
Yes. That was just like 2 years ago.
Yes.
I skew from the age of 18 to 24.
Right. Back in our college days, you had a wide selection of graphic novels.
Yeah.
And we would occasionally trade. We had what we called key parties.
Yes.
Where we would trade graphic novels. It's what all the kids were doing back then.
Yeah, you know it.
And I remember reading Fables because you recommended it. And I was like, yeah, it's all right. Gave it a couple trades, and I was like, I'll swing back to it. I'll get back to it when I'm more dressed for the occasion, when I'm in the mood.
Yeah.
Well, the mood struck me about 2 years ago, I think. Who's to say? Time's irrelevant now.
Yes.
And we dug into the first 50 issues, and then I took it on myself. I'm like, I'm going to see this motherfucker through to the end.
Good.
And I went on and read the remaining 100 issues, and I made a couple stops along the way. Any miniseries, any little one-shot, did those too. And I'm proud, or dare I say relieved to say, I have come to the conclusion of Fables. And I think we're going to dig into it.
We're going to dig into it, for sure. I read it pretty much all in one go until I had to wait for trades. And then when one would drop, I would read it and finish it. So I've had this done for a while.
You're waiting for me.
And I've been waiting on you for once.
Yep.
And I have only recently gone and flipped through what we'll be talking about today. Some things I did not remember at all. Some things I'm glad I flipped through and saw it again.
And some things you're glad you forgot.
Yes, and we will get to all of those. But I'll tell you what, just the small little smattering of pages I saw kind of rekindled my love for this book. Well, granted, I went through and found the stuff I wanted to see. And what was great, I think, still stands as being great.
Okay.
And let's get started. Like, issue 52. We're post-wedding. I don't know exactly what happens in issue 52, so I'm not putting you on the spot. But we're post Bigby and Snow White.
Full disclosure, I don't remember what happened in issue 150.
But I did jot down some notes here. So immediately following 50 here.
That phone's seen better days, Troy.
Dropped it. Dropped it on the hard ground.
Oh.
Yeah.
More than once?
No, just one time. Really did a number on it.
Really hard ground.
The Wolf family. I'm talking about
Bigby?
Bigby, Snow White.
Snow White.
And the Cubs.
Oh. You know what? I don't really care for any of those Cubs.
Well, that's too bad. They're pretty prevalent in a good chunk of the last
Don't remind me.
Fables.
Yeah.
They go and meet the North Wind, which is the father of Bigby.
That's right.
You remember?
Yep. Because he can blow those houses down.
That's right.
With the
huff and a
strength,
puff.
yes, of the northern winds.
That's right. And they meet the Northwind. I can't remember if it's the first time. I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
To see their grandfather.
Yep.
You know, see old grandpappy.
That's right.
And while there, they go kind of out exploring the surrounding castle and in the woods and whatnot, and they get into a little bit of trouble. And this is where they come across, the whole gang of cubs come across a cave, a cavern, if you will, full of just monsters. And they're in it deep.
Ne'er-do-wells, would you say?
They're full-on monsters. They're big furry beasts.
Literal monsters?
Yes.
Oh, it's that type of tale.
Yes.
Oh, my.
The Northwind, Bigby, and Snow White catch wind of this, pardon the pun, and they rush out to their aid. Bigby goes in full-on big bad wolf form, which
Beast
I
mode.
fucking love.
Yes.
And just rips their fucking asses apart. And I love it when Bigby transforms in this and really gets down to business. Like, he's a great character in this. Only to find out at the end, it's like, listen, kids, what you saw here was atrocious. I'm badly beaten. I will heal. These are all my brothers and sisters. It's a terrible family reunion you're seeing. But
we're trash people.
Yeah, so all in all, you get to see what it kind of encompasses the whole wolf family here. That he was like really the only one that made it out somewhat unharmed.
Unscathed.
Yeah.
Fractured family dynamics.
Yeah, even though he is a fractured one himself.
Yeah.
Only being in the good graces
Of Snow.
Of Snow and minor Fabletown up until recently. You know, like into the recent point in time.
I find it interesting that in the world of Fables, Fabers, if you're John F. Kennedy. Once they moved over to the Mundy world, everyone was granted amnesty, and all sins are forgiven.
Yes.
So Bigby, he tore it up in his in his college days. He had a couple key parties of his own.
Oh yeah.
And now he's like the sheriff.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
The town PI.
Yes.
Yeah, that always struck me as weird. They're just like, forgive and forget. But man, some of these Fables are just awful folk.
Yeah, they really are. A lot of the magic ones.
I couldn't get over the Frau Totenkinder.
Yeah.
She's literally every evil witch in every story. How many children has she eaten?
That's a good question.
And they're like, just get her knitting needles.
Yeah.
She's fine. Get her a nice comfy rocker and let her knit.
All the while, still brewing is the
adversary. Yep. Who we now know is none other than Geppetto.
Yes. And sooner or later, we come across a bit of a pickle where it's known that Geppetto is raising up the armies
of wooden soldiers.
And Pinocchio kind of has to choose. Now, he's still living in Fabletown. Like, where does he side? Does he side with his father that created him and gave him life?
Whose side are you on?
Yeah, it's
Pinocchio.
It's like literally a civil war. What? It's going...
A little piece of orange peel in there.
It's not very ladylike.
It's not.
So that comes into play as well. And I'm actually surprised at how long the build-up to the adversary is.
Yeah.
But I like it. I love that it's a slow burn, and even once you find out, it's still not done. It goes all the way up through 75?
75-ish is the Great Fables War, I believe. So, if I can be frank here.
Yeah.
My favorite issues of Fables, 1 through 50.
Yeah.
So, hang on. This is going to be a fun show.
I think I agree with you. There are spots of great stuff that happen in the last 100 issues. But I feel like after 50,
past
though...
that last 90 and you're on a home stretch.
I feel like after 50, maybe even after 75, once they wrap up that, they kind of divulge off into multiple different things happening. Which takes up more book real estate. Yep. But you're not really on the straight and narrow path of like this one adversary.
Yes. So like the pitch for Fables, all these Fables are living in the real world because they were chased out of their hometown by the adversary. Yes. That's a good cat or a good it's a good, what's the term?
thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
No, it's like, it's a good pitch.
Yes, it's a good pitch, for lack of better terms. And once they get past that, once they identify the adversary, and then eventually have to come to some sort of conclusion with that, I feel like they never get a strong enough continuing story to warrant it continuing on as a book. It seemed to me like this was always meant to be like a maxi series.
Yeah.
You know, it's telling the story of these fables on the run because of this threat. And once they fight that, like, there's a serious amount of just kind of like standing around. It's like, well, now what do we do?
Yeah.
And then they find another threat, but they all just feel like kind of like, well, what else? What do we do now?
Yeah.
How about this guy?
Yeah.
All right, he'll be the next adversary for a while, and then they'll defeat him, and then like, well, we need something else. How about this? All right. Well, we hit 150. That's good enough. Let's say we're done. Oh, we're in the middle of a storyline? Well, they're friends now.
when they do defeat the adversary, there is a bit of like fallout issue. It'd be like after like Captain America died.
Yeah.
There's like
I get it. There's like an epilogue, which is fine.
Boy Blue is nearly at death's door after the initial war with the adversary. He like loses an arm. He's like, just looks like shit,
yeah.
right?
I mean, I would say he dies in the war.
And he does.
Yes.
He does eventually, but like not at the war. But like after he passes off as like their greatest warrior at that time, they introduce this new threat, the Dark One, I believe is his name, the Dark
Mr.
Lord.
Dark.
Mr. Dark.
Mr. Dark, they call him.
But
Mr. Dark was my father. Call me Joseph.
Joe Dark.
Joe Dark, baby.
It's almost like if Bill Willingham didn't want to like do the same thing again. I don't want to have another 50 issues of this big dark looming threat. There's going to be
half.
Yeah, not even.
Yeah.
I think it went 22 years, 20 like 25 issues or so, because I think around issue 100 that's when he is defeated. And the North Wind takes him out.
He does. Well, they have us. I mean, to me, the Mr. Dark stuff felt longer in retrospect than the adversary stuff did. And maybe it was because it was really hard for me to get through those because they dropped that literals crossover in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Which just killed my momentum on this.
Yes.
So this is a crossover with Jack of Fables, one of the spin-offs, which I didn't read because I heard it's just abysmal. And then this 3-issue series called The Literals.
Yeah.
Which was only created to cross over with Fables. And the whole thing feels like the biggest mess.
Yeah.
Where it just drops into this crossover in the middle of the Mr. Dark storyline.
Yeah.
Upends everything. And you're just like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Who are these characters?
Yeah.
And I don't think there's much more to it than what you get here. But it feels so out of nowhere that it just like stopped me from caring about Fables entirely.
Yeah.
And I had to force myself through it.
I didn't like it whatsoever either. And there were even points where I tried, I'm like, okay, I kind of see what they're trying to do here, but like, not really. Because like, at the end, after you finished it, it's like, it didn't amount to anything.
It
like,
didn't amount to anything.
It doesn't do it, and it's like, if they're trying to do like fun, like meta stuff with like the literals.
Leave it to Grant. Leave it to Grant.
It didn't work for me.
No, it didn't work for me either.
And they dedicate there's a whole deluxe book
yeah.
that's just those crossovers.
Yes.
And it is not good.
Not good.
Not good in my opinion. They can easily be skipped.
Absolutely. There's nothing that comes back from those. And I was looking online too, because like I'll periodically look at Goodreads and stuff.
Yeah.
And anyone who's anyone will say like, you will appreciate Fables more if you just completely skip this portion. And I'm like, how can I do that?
Right.
And I wish I did.
Yeah.
It is awful.
The completionist in you will hate yourself for not doing it. But as a human being to human being,
yes.
I'm telling you, it's not necessary. Do not do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, coming back from that.
Yes. a bright spot for me
yes.
in this, and I can't remember if it's, I think it's actually before Mr. Dark comes into play. But they do a whole run dedicated to Flycatcher.
Okay.
And I feel like this is one of the strongest points post issue 50. I love this storyline. Like you you've seen him before, and he's just like this lowly janitor, kind of like dumb. You know? Like,
hey now, my father was a custodian.
I didn't say he was dumb.
Okay.
I'm saying Flycatcher comes off as a bit of a dullard.
My father's an American hero.
I know.
He was in Nam.
I know.
I know.
He has yet to tell us about it.
I know.
And I don't know if I want to hear it.
No, he was in the shit.
But he ends up finding out that he is worthy of all of this grandeur, and he goes into like the back offices of the Fabletown department.
Yep.
And ends up meeting with the ghost of Lancelot, and finds out that he is worthy of wielding Excalibur.
Hey, all right!
Pulls it from the stone,
Uh-huh.
and dons the armor of Lancelot to go down the wishing well, because that'd be the only way he'd be able to survive.
Why?
I can't remember exactly why,
All right.
but he does it, and down there he meets all of the characters that have long since been dead, and some that have recently died.
Mm-hmm.
And
Bluebeard is down there.
Yep.
Shere Khan.
One of the three bears, I think, is down there.
Yeah.
I can't remember. But, like, they're all down there, and he creates, he finds his old stomping grounds, per se, like his old kingdom.
Yep.
And it's all overgrown, but it's the only thing that even has any sort of, like, life to it still.
Yes. In the old worlds.
In the old
after
worlds.
the adversary wrecked it.
Yes.
Just wrecked the shit out of those old worlds.
And from there, he, it's hard to say he even rules, but he is the king.
Yeah.
And he rules with compassion and love. He believes in no bloodshed. Even with Excalibur, he'll fight with the blunt edge of the flat edge of the sword to not to even draw blood. And with that, like, I think he's also being drained of his power. I've read this 3 years ago because he went down the wishing well.
I read it 6 months ago, and I don't fucking remember any of it.
But with it just shows the great character of Flycatcher, and everyone gets behind him, and then he ends up coming back to Fabletown, and some people have come with him, and he's built this
And then they're like, hey, Fly! The floor looks like shit. Why don't you
Where
grab
have
a
you
mop?
been? Somebody
He's like,
puked in there.
Sorry.
But after that, they do refer to him as like King Catcher or King Fly or something like that through the rest. But I feel it's like one of the strongest moments in post 50 Fables.
Yeah, I was a little put off by how depressing his backstory was. Where like his wife
sad.
and daughter were like killed and raped in front of him.
Yeah.
Like, that seemed unnecessary.
That always throws me off too, because like the art in this, it changes hands every once in a while, but it's mostly Buckingham.
Mark Buckingham did 110 issues of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got that storybook aesthetic, and so it looks
With the
innocent.
cool margins.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the margins. But then it gets into this super dark shit, and it like almost blindsides you every time. But then, like, I was flipping through this as well. There's, like, full-on little arcs with Mike Allred's art in it as well.
Oh, yeah. That was the one with Bigby and his brothers and sisters.
Yes.
Yeah, that was great.
But another thing that branches off here, too, like, Buffkin is, like, always around.
Who's Buffkin?
He's the flying monkey from
Oz.
From Oz. He ends up going to Oz, and that's, like, a whole, like, story in itself.
Yeah, they were backup
pages
in my favorite arc, which we'll get into, but
Okay.
I'm not going to steal Buffkin's thunder here.
Buffkin
God knows he
Thunder.
deserves
Yeah.
all the praise. But yeah, like a lot of the Oz stuff, I don't think I had a whole lot of background on. Like I know the Wizard of Oz story, but they go like deep into the Oz mythos for this.
Yeah.
Even the character, one of the witches on the 13th floor, which is where all the witches hang out, Ozma, is she from the Wizard of Oz?
I don't know. I'm not a huge Oz buff myself.
Okay. All right. Doesn't matter. She dies very unheroically later anyway. So, but yeah, I did like Buffkin's little backup story where it kind of goes through his entire life, and then like he kind of like settles down with a Thumbelina type of girl from I think Lilliput, one of the Lilliputians, and just like lives out his days on a farm. Like he does all his heroic deeds. I do like this. They do have like these heroic themes where like the hero gets to ride off into the sunset.
Yes.
Essentially, and just like lives out his days and then dies, and then everyone mourns him because he was a great soul.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he gets that.
Yeah.
Of all the characters,
Yeah.
like this flying monkey gets that.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, good for him.
Yeah, right.
He
Yeah,
did
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting, and I thought it was weird that they did it like in a series of backup issues.
Mm-hmm.
But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, it still reads pretty great, I think. It's one of the fun
and they're
things.
collected not in backup issues in the trades
Right.
and hardcovers, but that was how it was originally presented, which I feel like gives it a little less gravitas.
Yeah, yeah.
But who's reading them issue to issue anymore?
And the art style is different for all those as well. It's got like a fun, almost
Bouncy Pumpkinhead type.
Yes,
You know?
exactly the way to put it.
You mentioned earlier Boy Blue dies in the battle with the adversary. There's a couple other kind of random deaths that struck me as like how sudden they were. Another one is Prince Charming, who dies in like the same battle. He gets badly burned. I'm badly burned. It's like almonds. And he like goes down in a blimp, basically. I think one of Sinbad's blimps fighting. Yeah. Oh, good, love a good blimp. He goes down, and he was like a Fables mainstay, and then he's out of the book forever.
Yeah.
And you assume he's dead, and I assumed he was dead, and then I read the companion piece, Fairest. He pops up back in there, which I thought was very odd. But, again, neither here nor there.
I've never read Fairest. It's always been on my to-do list, and I've never done it.
We chatted a little bit off air.
Yeah.
Those Adam Hughes covers are just phenomenal.
Dynamite.
I have one framed that I love, like a Cinderella cover, and even the artists in that are phenomenal too. I think they kill it. They're definitely more detailed than Mark Buckingham gives to it, but they didn't do 110 issues, so like they had a little bit more time.
Yeah.
But the Fairest companion series picks up around issue 107 of Fables, and I always assumed it was just like another weird spin-off and you can take or leave it. As I read it, there were parts of this where I was like, this seems essential to understanding Fables in its entirety. And I am glad I read it, even though it's highs and lows. There's parts in there where I had no idea, like, the extent of this character in Fables until I read this piece in Fairest. For example, Beauty, as you see before you, wife of the beast, in Fables, you just assume she's the normal storybook character of Belle. Or Beauty, I guess. I don't know if they ever call her Belle. In Fairest, you find out she's actually a creature called Lamia, who killed Beauty, and is a shape changer, and she's impersonating her, and, like, she has no memory of this. She just thinks she's Beauty, but, like, every couple hundred years, she goes on, like, this one night of just bloodthirsty carnage, and Beast identifies with that, so that is one of the things that, like, keeps them together. And that is why Frau Tottenkinder always is like giving hints that their soon-to-be baby is going to be this monster. And that, I don't think that's ever paid off in Fables. And I never would have caught it if not for this one issue of Fairest.
You were telling me that too, and I swear I heard that somewhere. I don't know if it's just hinted at in Fables or not, but somehow I didn't come across it, and I don't know if I picked up that a few issues of that or not.
Yeah. If I'm wrong, let us know. If you've made it this far, let us know. But that was like completely blew me away. I'm like, what? Really? Like that gives me a completely different appreciation of the stuff that happened in Fables.
Yeah.
But I have no idea. Oh, I'm not going to reread it. And then also, another character that comes back, Prince Charming, comes back in Fairest. And he's in this Maharaja arc. He's like the next Maharaja?
Yeah.
Is that how
Maharaja,
you say it?
yeah.
Maharaja is an Arabian prince.
Yes.
There's a whole arc on him. He died in the blimp accident, but then he got better.
Good.
Yeah. And then Fairest went on, and like the last story arc of that I thought was just abysmal. It was Renyard, the fox.
Oh,
Did I say it wrong?
Probably, but I couldn't tell you how it actually is.
He falls in love with a Mundy girl, gets her pregnant, they have a fox baby. She's a daughter of this hillbilly group, and they're like on the run, and it's just really, really bad.
Oh, that's too bad.
Just was not a fan of it. But Fairest starts off pretty well, and there is an original graphic novel called Fairest in the Land that is all about Cinderella solving a series of murders around there. and it all, spoilers, wraps back that Goldilocks is the one killing him.
Okay.
Which is pretty good.
Okay.
I thought that was good, and I think Goldilocks is killed for good at the end of that one.
Okay.
So that one, I was like, yeah, that's worth a read, even if
Okay.
you're just doing that one by itself.
All right.
But yeah, that was a standout for me in this whole run.
Now, I went over one of my favorite moments in this latter half of Fables, latter third of Fables.
Mm-hmm.
What was one of your favorite points?
So one of I think the thing that got me back on board this when I was really dragging was this super depressing storyline.
Of course.
Cubs in Toyland.
Yeah, this is another one of my favorites as well.
I thought that was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Where one of Bigby's cubs, Bigby and Snow's cubs, finds like a happy boat, and she like follows it down the river, and it takes her to Toyland, like the island of misfit toys.
Yeah.
And she gets there, and they're like, "You're gonna rule us. You're gonna be the queen."
Mm-hmm.
And then they find out this is just like a horribly awful place, and all the toys there are toys that inadvertently killed the children that they were gifted to.
Yeah.
And they've all been like thrown away to this just awful, forgotten place. And her brother, is it Darius?
I don't remember all the Cubs' names.
There's one, like the oldest cub. I can't remember his name either. It starts with a D. He's kind of a shithead, but he's like, I'm gonna go save her.
Yeah.
And he goes off, and he ends up sacrificing himself and killing himself to set her free.
Yeah.
And it was so heartfelt and still like morbid and depressing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you find out like she's able to kind of get the toys to get the rack together, and they're going to go out and help kids, and they're going to like save kids from falling into horrible accidents and everything. And by the time she gets back to Snow and Bigby, like time passed differently there, and she comes back and she's like 27 or something.
Yeah.
So she's lost like 15 years of her life.
Yeah.
And that whole storyline I thought was just great.
Yes.
Like for a while, everyone's looking for these missing cubs,
Mm-hmm.
and you just see this awful shit that they're going through over in this just miserable land.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this took a really dark turn.
Yes.
But like that was what I want to say this. That was what I wanted more of Fables to be. Like this really dark take on all these fairy tales, because like everyone knows all like the Mother Goose and Grimm storylines were very like dark stories. They were like warning stories.
Right.
And a lot of this, like as it went on, it got kind of goofy, you know?
Sometimes.
And it's like, I just wanted a little bit more of an edge to it. And I felt like this brought it without being like a gritty in-your-face thing. It's just like, wow, it felt like something Neil Gaiman would have written.
Yeah, I can see that. It definitely, I think, is the darkest
it ever gets.
And I think it is a great arc as well. Before that arc even happened, there is like this like saying for all the Cubs, like 1 will die, 2 will something, 3 blah 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 blah. And that is eventually fulfilled.
Yes.
Through all the Cubs and stuff. But for the life of me, I can't remember what it is.
No, I don't remember what it is. There's like 8 Cubs.
Yeah. I think there's 7, and the 7th one ends up being like invisible and only Snow knows about.
Yeah, Ghost.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, all of them fulfill a destiny. One of them becomes kind of like a stand-in for Bill Willingham.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's kind of like, he's writing like all of the Fables.
Oh,
he becomes like an author,
yeah.
and then just like kind of commits to a Mundy life.
Yes.
But he chronicles all this stuff. And I feel like that's kind of the author facsimile. And then like the last chunk deals with the reemergence of Snow White's husband, like the first prince, I guess, had awoken her. And the feud between Snow White and Rose Red.
At a point, like, it becomes all about that. Like, from maybe even the last 40 issues, it might have little seeds of it, but it's all a big family drama up until the end.
Yeah, and this, like, I was pushing to get through these. Bigby gets taken out of commission. He gets turned to glass and shattered by Snow White's husband. They have like a big showdown there. He eventually gets reformed, but he's like maniacal now, and he goes around and slaughters a bunch of the Fables. He kills Beast and Ozma, and it's just like, and then like there was really no repercussion to that. They're like, Oh, you're back! Great. All right. Well, let's go. It's like, avoid the mess there. You really got at him.
At a point, you get to find out why Rose Red and Snow White are at each other. They're at each other from like a young age.
Yeah.
Snow White.
Tale as old as time.
Yeah, exactly. And Snow White was always the fairest in the land, so she always got treated with like this, like a dignity. And, yeah, and she was, but treated better than Rose, who eventually found like solace in having like going out and being like this party girl. Yeah,
she's the it girl,
and she never really strayed from that up until we get to like a midpoint of the book where, well, maybe not even that far, but she's like depressed once we get to like
when Boy Blue kicks it, she's just in bed drinking herself to death for like 30 issues.
Yes.
That pig on a pike is just trying to cheer her up. It's not working.
No.
I don't know why not. I mean,
it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like the last big chunk of the book is like this kind of big family drama.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if I like that or not, because it feels like such a sudden turn to just be about that.
I wouldn't mind if that's what it was, if it had any like payoff. But I felt like it didn't. I felt like Rose Red decides, she like gets out of her slump and she's like, I'm gonna form a new Knights of the Round Table.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna rebuild Camelot.
Yeah.
And you're on the table and you're on the table. And she like forms this new group and they're building all this shit and everyone's like, for what? Like, what are you doing? And she isn't like saying. And then eventually she's like, I gotta kill Snow White, because I've learned that everyone in my family, like the siblings, have to kill each other until there's only one left, and that's what we're cursed to do. And Snow's like, excuse me? She's like, yep, sorry, we're going to war. Suit up, get ready, I'm coming for you.
Yeah.
And it's like, out of nowhere, you're just like, when did this, like, what? I hate you now.
Yeah.
But okay. Like,
yeah.
And then for like 30 issues, they're just like preparing to kill each other.
Right.
And then like right when they get down to it, Rose just kind of has this epiphany where she's just like, maybe we don't? And they're like, yeah, let's just like go our separate ways, because like we only have to kill each other if we're around each other.
Right.
So like you go that way and I'll go this way and we'll be fine.
Right.
And that was like kind of where they left it. And I was just thinking, like, that is what this is. That's how you're wrapping up your story? On guard! Well...
Yeah.
And that was like the 150th issue. There's a lot of other, like, fluff to it, but that was the storyline that was building, and then they're just like, I guess we're done.
Yeah, and the 150th issue is a trade itself.
Yeah, I give them credit for that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. But doesn't it end like Grease? They end up flying off in a car?
Briar Rose does.
Briar Rose does.
The car is a witch that has been turned into a car.
Like Fastman turned into a Jeep.
Exactly like that. Inside joke. Maybe we'll get to it someday. But, yeah, the car can go 1,000 trips before it turns back to the witch, and then they're fucked. So they have to, like, keep an eye on the mileage. And at the end, they, like, fly it off into the sun or something, or fly it into infinity. Because Briar Rose got, like, scraped by some zombie thorn, and she's gonna, die.
Right.
And that was another thing where I'm like, well, that was sudden. Like, what? For one, she's not a main character, but then, like, she flies off into the sunset like she was.
Right.
Like, we should care about her at all. And, I mean, the last book wraps up everybody, for the most part.
Yeah.
And some are good, like, they're hit or miss, you know, there's a ton of characters in this. But, ultimately, I just felt like this is something that should have known when to stop. Because I don't think there was hardly anything after, like, the main adversary storyline that was any payoff. Like, Geppetto gets welcomed into the Fables kingdom.
Yeah.
Like, amnesty, you're good to go.
Yeah.
I mean, you killed all these people.
Yeah.
You were the reason we're here.
You're a real shit bloke.
Yeah. It was a total, like, snake eating its own tail scenario. But, he's allowed back, and he's kind of, like, scheming in the background, but, like, there's never any payoff with that. So there's just a lot of things where I felt like they just lost steam. And, maybe it's because after Sandman ended for Vertigo, they didn't have, like, a big epic ongoing book for
like
a while.
a tentpole thing for Vertigo.
Yeah, and I think Fables kind of fit that bill, and they were probably just like, what's it going to take to keep this going, Bill?
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, like, just keep it going as long as you can, because we need, like, this staple.
When flipping back through some of this, I saw some stuff that I remember liking quite a bit. And all things considered, like some of the bad stuff that we pointed out that we weren't really a big fan of, I might revisit this whole series again. Not anytime soon.
No.
But I might do the whole run again.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
It seems like one that I would. Because, like, I don't know why,
Uh-huh.
but there's some things in there that really just trip my trigger, and
Yeah?
I kind of want to revisit that again.
Okay. I don't think I would ever read it again. I would read the beginning issues again. I like the first one and Animal Farm, the second one, and some of those early ones where I felt like they had a better handle on the characters then. Like Bigby was this kind of sleazy private eye detective type of guy, and I don't feel like he continued in that mold. Like once he kind of settled down with Snow, he was just kind of like a very generic character that was whatever they needed him to be, and he didn't have like that, you know, that like Jack Nicholson Chinatown type of just like sleazy private eye guy.
Yeah.
You know? It's Fabletown.
But it's Fabletown. And he was absent from chunks of the book as well.
Yeah, that's another thing. There's huge arcs where like none of the main characters are in it. They'll just like jump to another one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I guess they're a main character now. Like Beast becomes a very main character, even though he's not in it a whole lot for the first like 50 issues. And then he becomes like the sheriff for a while. And then he's unceremoniously killed by Bigby later.
Once Bigby and family kind of leaves, they're off doing their own thing. Fabletown's doing their own thing, and then they've also got like the farm doing its own thing as well.
Yeah.
As well as like the adversary is still brewing over in Fable Land. There's a lot of moving parts at one point, and I don't know if that's to its benefit, but like sometimes when you really just want a Bigby.
Yeah,
you really and like he's the one I want to see the most.
Yeah, I didn't like any of the Rose Red stuff, to be honest.
Okay.
Like once she started building an army, I was like, okay, well, she's finally got some drive. Where's this going? But then it didn't amount to anything.
There's a lot of stuff in the book where she is just mopey and depressed.
Yes.
A lot.
Yeah.
Because even early on, she's like kind of running the farm and just kind of down. And that's even before like Blue dies.
Yeah. What this book needed was more Boy Blue. Once he was out of the game, like it took a steep decline.
But I still overall I think I would still revisit this, and I would definitely like suggest it to people who are wanting to not read superhero-y stuff.
Yeah. I would say that.
Something off the beaten path for sure. And
if you're into
multiple Eisners and all this kind of stuff.
It won a shit ton.
Yeah.
If you're into fantasy fairy tale stuff, like you will probably eat this up.
Yeah.
There are parts where like it gets a little long in the tooth.
Yeah.
But overall, if this is your bag, you probably dig it.
Yeah.
It's not exactly my bag. I'm not huge on this.
Yeah.
The closest thing I can think of to it is like Sandman, which I like more than this because I think it's darker and a bit more mature. So Troy, is that it? Am I done with Fables? Can I take a break? Can I shut the book?
You can close the book.
All right.
Do you want me to give you the last one to close?
I'd rather you just get out of my sight.
Fair enough. So what did you think out there? Viewers, did you read Fables? Did you read every spin-off of it? Ferris, Jack of Fables?
A lot of people liked it. I mean, this was a highly requested episode.
That's right.
And then we did it, so maybe no one will watch this. But I felt the need to wrap it up. I had to get one more use out of this dress.
Well, you send it to the cleaners.
That's right. Before I send it to needy children.
But let us know all your thoughts down below. Thank you for all your continued support for all the patrons out there. If you'd like to become one, you may do so.
Yep.
And join us in our fancy Discord. We can chat with us all day long.
That's right. Get yourself one of those mysterious book club membership cards that every patron member gets, along with access to our Discord, where we just bullshit all day long and post funny emojis.
That's right. And sometimes only specific patron merch if you are into that kind of stuff.
Like those Imperius Flex tees?
Like those Imperius Flex tees.
Thanks.
tanks.
Tank guy would be spinning in his grave if I killed him.
And we have more stuff on the way as well. So thank you for your continued support. Thank you for dropping in on this episode.
That's right. Thanks for coming by.
That's right. And as always, I have been Troy to the Max Extreme.
Ghost Hunter Dave.
And together, we close the book as Imperius Rex. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
And live happily ever after. Get yourself one of those much sought after Imperius Rex Club mysterious book. No, I messed that. That's too many words.